Good morning, everybody. Dear guests, colleagues and friends, we have the great pleasure to welcome you at the conference of the International Society for Scientometrics and Informetrics in Vienna, Austria. This is the 14th conference of the ISSI. The first one took place, do you know when it was? It was in 1987. The first one was in Belgium. And then it took its way all over the world, from Canada, India, the USA, China, Spain. Brazil was a great conference, Jacqueline. And also in South Africa, what was a very good conference. And now it arrived in Vienna, in Austria. So it's a special pleasure for us to have you all here in this nice place. We have been two who organized this conference because it was a lot of work to do it. So it was jointly organized from the Austrian Institute of Technology, where I am from, and the University of Vienna, and my partner is Juan Gorais. Juan, thank you very, very much for the excellent cooperation so far.
Welcome to the 14th edition of this conference. The large number of registrations and submissions confirm the growing interest on this young discipline. Today, here, looking at these famous paintings on the ceiling, I can't stop thinking of which kind of allegory Gustav Klimt would have chosen for Scientometrics, this discipline trying to measure what is impossible to measure, namely science itself. I know each one of us has a different vision, but in this crucial period, we need to remain open-minded and willing to work together in order to reinforce our growing community. Now, I just want to thank you for your attendance, your trust, and your support. And you can be sure we will do our very best in order that you have an unforgettable time in Vienna.
Thank you, Juan. Now let us open the conference with three welcome notes. So the first one comes, of course, from the president of the organization. On behalf of that organization, the conference takes place. It's Ronald Rousseau. And Ronald, he's the president of the ISSI, and most of him know him because he works many years in the field of Scientometrics and Informetrics. He's member of several editorial boards of journals in this field, and he's busy giving lectures all over the world. So, Ronald, may I ask you to give the first welcome address, please?
Thank you. Dear colleagues, in turn, on behalf of the ISSI, the International Society for Scientometrics and Informetrics, I would like to welcome you to the 14th in this transcontinental series of conferences. I am 100% confident that our Austrian colleagues, organizers, and the whole team behind them have prepared everything to the highest degree of perfectness, so that I just have to sit and relax. This is the fourth and hence the last conference which I have the honor to open. Indeed, next conference in Turkey, another president will have been elected. Yet it is my wish that this conference will be historic in the sense that we will discuss if ISSI conferences will become annual events from 2016 on instead of biennial. Please give your opinion. Discuss with the board members, besides Secretary Wolfgang Glenso and me. These are Ed Noyons, Henk Moed, Cassidy Sugimoto, Kevin Boyac, Vincent Larivière, and Jacqueline Letta, and fill in the form you have received. We appreciate your input. I wish you all a pleasant and scientifically fruitful conference.
Thank you, Ronald.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is the Vice Rector of the University of Vienna, Susanne Weigerlin-Schwirzig, who will welcome you as host of this conference.
Dear colleagues, it is my honor and pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the University of Vienna. And I'm not saying this because I'm supposed to say this, but I'm saying this because I feel that this conference is a very, very important conference at a very crucial time in the development of the worldwide university system, as well as in the development of your discipline. You are sitting right at the center of a university that was founded in 1365. We'll have our 650th birthday very soon in 2015. And for at least the last 20 to 30 years, it was your young discipline which has had an enormous influence on the reshaping of this old and traditional university, as well as the university system at large. However, I also feel that at this particular moment, your young discipline, as it was called this morning already, is entering into a very crucial phase. It is a phase where you meet with a lot of criticism, while at the same time, politicians are using your data to take decisions on where to allocate their money. We, as administrators of the universities, use your data to assess our colleagues, our departments, our institutes. And the scientific community and academia at large is using your data to find a way through the jungle of publications which are coming out in growing numbers every year. Without you, 3 crucial actors in this university system are unable to take decisions. And it is this kind of responsibility that is on your shoulders. Now that your discipline is not a kindergarten child anymore, but maybe has grown to come into puberty, it is time to think about what you are doing. And this is very important also for us who use your data, that you not only produce your data, but that you also take a critical attitude towards what you are supplying for us in terms of data. And this, of course, includes that we will have to think twice when we're using your data, more than we did in the past. And it is for this reason that I think that this organization is extremely important. And it is for this reason that I'm very, very happy that so many of you have come to this beautiful city of Vienna with the best weather we have had for weeks, supporting you in your endeavor to develop your discipline, to come to terms with the kind of enormous responsibility I was just hinting at, and to have a good time with each other with many important and fruitful discussions. I'm sure that this is going to be a very good conference and a very important and fruitful conference. And I am very glad to have at least some time to spend together with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your welcome note. Our next speaker is Mrs. Simone Mesner. Maybe some of you remember, she was already with us in 2008. Simone Mesner is a representative from the Federal Ministry of Science and Research in Austria. And I think this is very interesting for bibliometricians and scientometricians. She is responsible for the monitoring of the National Research Technology and Innovation Strategy in Austria. So, Mrs. Mesner, I'm looking forward to your welcome note.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Austrian Federal Ministry for Science and Research, it is my pleasure to welcome you to this conference, which this year is taking place for the first time in Vienna. Evidence-based policies are based on the obligations to assess public interventions in terms of their impact. Especially in times of crisis of public budget restraints necessitate policy departments to critically assess the added value of their activities. When formulating national innovation strategies, the impact assessment of publicly funded research is important, not just in a national context, also of increasing importance when assessing national strengths and weaknesses, are comparability with other national economies and international rankings. Rising expectations as regards the way that research and development acts as a key stimulus to increase a society's economic output are accompanied by a growing need for informative indicators, extensive statistics, public access to data, and international comparisons. Investments in new knowledge in research and development, especially in times of scarce financial resources and consolidation of public budgets, are strengthening demand for comparative R&D statistics and indicator-based targets. Is it even possible to adequately measure a country's innovative performance? Are there individual indicators or groups of indicators that can depict multifaceted and interdependent nature of innovation, a process that is often not amenable in being captured within a time-limited manner? I consider this to be a difficult endeavor because there is a danger of making unidimensional statements about complex systems. Nevertheless, ever more synthetic indicators are being created to measure the economic and social progress. Such composite indicators, which are supposed to reflect the country's competitiveness, should be treated with caution. Even if individual indicators are themselves highly informative, they often do not have the range of significance that people often like to attribute to them. The desire for a mechanistic model which can explain the mechanisms by which R&D impacts upon a society's economic growth is not new. All models show that the linear input-output relationship is inadequate, especially when one considers the innovation process all the way from the basic research to innovation. Basic research in particular is decisive for a country's innovation climate and performance, although there is little empirical evidence for direct and rapidly measurable benefits. Basic research is not directed toward any practical application, therapies, or technologies, but it creates the knowledge base for all practical forms of implementation and for innovation. And of course, its effect is a long-term one. New standards are also being applied in RTD policy to legitimate the use of public funding for research with the introduction on 1st January of this year of the federal budget reform. This federal budget reform has legally implemented the principle of impact orientation and caused budgeting strategy to be amended in a manner that will support an output-oriented approach. One of the goals is to integrate into the budget the desired impact and activities of policy and administration. The manner in which performance budgeting is undertaken should also clearly and transparently demonstrate to a broad public the benefits which the investment of tax revenues generate. The introduction of impact-oriented assessment and the mandatory internal evaluation reports after a maximum of 5 years will ensure that the entire Austrian public sector will be required to account for the financial, economic, environmental, consumer protection, social and gender impact of statutory activities. In the Austrian strategy for research, technology and innovation called Becoming an Innovation Leader, which was adopted by the Austrian government in 2011, the government sets itself the goal of joining the group of European innovation leaders by 2020 and increasing research spending. This means that the Austrian research landscape will have to increasingly direct its attention to this goal, in the context of which impact assessment and evaluation must constitute central elements. For the purposes of monitoring the implementation of this strategy, the Austrian Council for RTD presents an annual monitoring report that includes an extensive set of indicators. And the annual Austrian Research and Technology report to the Parliament also includes a progress report on the implementation of this strategy from the side of the ministries. This clearly shows that the need to consolidate public finances, the justified demand for the most efficient use of public funds, and the desire of policymakers to achieve the greatest possible output of their investments make it necessary to improve still further the measuring of output, outcome, and of the efficiency of R&D funding in more complex microeconometric models. The Federal Ministry for Science and Research, therefore, sees this conference as an important step toward advancing the discussion about improving and expanding methodologies, questions of utilization, and other important questions and challenges of the future, and future topics such as open access. I'm therefore looking forward with great interest to the next few days, and I'm excited by the broad variety of themes contained in the program. And once again, on behalf of the Ministry of Science and Research, and at this point I also want to mention my colleagues from the Ministry of Technology, Transport and Innovation who send their best wishes, I wish you all fruitful and stimulating presentations, discussions and networking.
Thank you. Okay.